The man I betrayed is the one who binds my soul now. The words echoed in my mind as I stood on the worn stone balcony overlooking the bustling square of Nerith. The evening sun painted the buildings in gold, casting long shadows across the marketplace below. Laughter, the clatter of hooves, the sweet smell of baked bread and spiced fruit. It should have felt like peace. But my chest ached, tight and cold, as if invisible chains pulled tighter with each breath. I gripped the railing, knuckles white. It's been 5 years, I reminded myself. 5 years of hiding. He's gone. That life is gone. But no matter how far I ran, no matter how many new names I took, tonight, the weight of my past felt heavier than ever. The crowd below blurred, faces blending together, until I saw him. Tall, dark hair, messy like he'd run his fingers through it too many times. A uniform I didn't recognize, but those eyes, God's those eyes. Gray like storm clouds. The same eyes that stared at me as the life left his body. The same eyes that even in death whispered, "You can't escape me." My throat went dry. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I thought I'd faint. It can't be. Kayden is dead. I watched him die. I made it happen. I forced myself to look away, stepping back from the balcony, but my body refused to move. Like I was rooted there by guilt. Nova? I flinched at the sound of my name. Damon, kind, reliable Damon, appeared at my side, a basket of herbs slung over one arm. "You okay?" His brown eyes searched my face, concern softening his features. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Worse, I thought. "I think I have." "I'm fine," I lied, voice too tight. "Just tired. The market's loud tonight." Damon glanced down at the square. "The new captain of the guard arrived today. Maybe that's why. People always get excited over fresh faces and fancy armor." "Captain of the guard?" My stomach twisted. "Captain?" I asked, too quickly. "Yeah. Tall guy, dark hair, looks like he hasn't smiled in years. I heard he's from the borderlands, supposed to be tough. Good for this place with the bandits about." I swallowed hard. "What's his name?" "Rin." Damon shrugged. "Rin Delaric, I think." "Why?" "No reason." But my mind screamed otherwise. Rin, not Kayden. It's not him. Just a man who looks like him. Still, the memory of those gray eyes burned behind my lids. Later, I tried to lose myself in work at the apothecary. The small shop smelled of lavender and sage, the familiar scent usually enough to steady me. But not tonight. My hands trembled as I sorted dried roots, and when the door creaked open, my heart leapt into my throat. He stood there. Rin. Closer now I saw the subtle differences. The sharper line of his jaw, the faint scar on his brow. His uniform was plain but well kept, and his posture spoke of discipline. He didn't look at me at first. His gaze swept the shop, taking in every detail as if memorizing the space. When our eyes met, I felt like the floor fell out from under me. "Good evening," he said, voice deep, steady, polite, but distant. "I'm looking for the healer." I swallowed. "That's me. I help Master Orlin. He's away collecting supplies." His eyes lingered on mine, as if he sensed something beneath my calm facade. Does he feel it too? The pull, the weight of something unfinished between us. "I'm Rin," he offered, hesitating as if unsure why he was bothering with small talk. "It's a new captain." "I heard," I said, forcing my hands to still. "Welcome to Nerith." He nodded. I didn't mean to intrude, just wanted to introduce myself. I try to know the faces of those I might work with, if trouble comes. Trouble already came the day you walked into this town. "You're not intruding," I lied again, heart pounding. A loud commotion from outside saved me, or so I thought. We both turned as shouts rose from the market. A trader's cart had overturned, crates spilling into the street. A burly man grabbed a boy by the collar, shaking him. "Thief!" The man roared. "I'll teach you to steal from me." Before I could react, Rin was already out the door. I ran after him. By the time I reached them, Rin had stepped between the trader and the boy, who couldn't have been more than 10. The child's face was pale with fear. "Let him go," Rin said quietly. The trader scowled. "He took from me, little rat." I said let him go. Rin's tone hardened. The trader hesitated, then released the boy. The child bolted, disappearing into the crowd. "You're too soft," the traitor spat. "That brat'll just rob someone else tomorrow." "Maybe," Rin agreed, watching the boy vanish. "Or maybe he was hungry. Maybe next time you'll ask before you raise your hand." The traitor grumbled and stalked off. Rin turned, catching me watching. "Sorry you had to see that," he said, his mouth twitching at one corner, almost a smile. I shook my head, breathless. "You handled it well." For a moment, the tension between us shifted. The weight in his gaze wasn't anger or suspicion. It was curiosity, and something else. Something that felt too familiar. "Nova, was it?" he asked. "Yes." His name on his lips felt like a promise, or a threat. I couldn't tell which. "Good to meet you, Nova." He nodded and turned to leave. But he glanced back once, as if drawn to me, the way I was to him. As he disappeared into the crowd, I let out the breath I hadn't realized I was holding. My hands trembled again. Rin, not Kayden. But the same eyes, the same pull. And for the first time in 5 years, I feared that no amount of running would save me. The room was small, tucked beneath the sloping roof of Master Orland's shop, but tonight it felt like a prison. The moon hung heavy beyond the single window, its pale light spilling across the floor in broken patterns. The beams of the ceiling seemed to press lower, as if the weight of my sins had seeped into the very walls. I lay on my narrow bed, staring at the rafters, breath shallow. Sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, his face appeared. Kayden. His name was a blade against my heart, a name I hadn't dared speak aloud in years. But in the darkness it filled my mind like a curse. "You promised me forever," the voice whispered. Soft, bitter, unmistakable. His voice, not from memory. No, this was now, inside me, as if the bond hadn't died with him. I pressed my hands to my ears, as if that could shut him out, but the voice only grew clearer, so gave me to them. "You watched me fall." "No," I breathed, shaking my head, tears stinging my eyes. "I had no choice. They would have slaughtered us all." But the voice didn't answer. Instead, the past rose around me like smoke. I saw it again. The field was nothing but ruin. Charred earth. Broken banners whipping in the wind. The sky a bruised purple, streaked with black smoke. And Kayden, my Kayden, standing before me, blood staining his armor. A look in his eyes I'd never seen before. Betrayal. The enemy had come not through the gates, but through the hidden path I'd revealed. To save my people. To stop the endless war. I'd thought, foolishly, that it would end with mercy. But the screams told another story. He had fought to the last. When he fell, it wasn't to their blades, but to mine. My dagger meant for another, driven through his side as he reached for me, to save me, or to end me. I still didn't know. And those eyes, gray, wide with shock, then sorrow, and then nothing. I sat up, gasping, the night air cold against my sweat-damp skin. My hands trembled. The tips of my fingers felt numb, as if frost had kissed them. I rubbed them together, trying to will away the chill, the memory. It was supposed to end there, I thought bitterly. One life, one death. But he wouldn't let me go. I swung my feet to the floor, the old boards creaking under my weight. The room smelled of dried herbs and old wood, but beneath that, I swore I could smell smoke. Blood. "I can't keep doing this," I whispered to the empty room. The voice didn't answer this time. Only the silence pressed in, heavy as a storm about to break. I crossed to the window and pushed it open, letting the night breeze wash over me. It carried the scent of the market long since closed. Stale bread, old wine, the faint sweetness of crushed flowers. And beneath that, always, the memory of ash. I stared out at the dark rooftops, the distant flicker of torches at the city gate. Somewhere out there, Rin slept. Or maybe he too lay awake, haunted by dreams he didn't understand. I have to end this. The thought came clear, sharper than fear. There was one person who might know how, Sierra. The witch who lived beyond the woods, shunned by the townsfolk, whispered about in fear and wonder. She had known of the curse. She had warned me once. What would happen if I chose betrayal? Maybe she can undo what I did. Or show me how to break the bond, before it destroys him too. A shiver ran through me, but not from the night air. From resolve. I had spent 5 years running, hiding, trying to build a life from the ruins. But the past wouldn't stay buried. And if I truly wanted to protect Rin, protect Kayden's soul, whatever remained of it, I had to face what I'd done. The moonlight caught on the edge of the small dagger I kept by my bed. I picked it up, weighing it in my palm. The hilt was worn smooth from nights like this, where fear kept me company more than sleep. I won't run anymore. I dressed quickly, pulling on my cloak, the hood deep enough to shadow my face. The streets would be quiet now, the city gates closed, but the path to Sierra's cottage lay through the woods. I could slip out unseen. My heart pounded as I closed the door behind me. Each step down the narrow stairs felt louder than it should. At the door to the shop, I hesitated, glancing back at the little room that had been my refuge, the place where I'd tried to build a new life. Goodbye, I thought, though I didn't say it aloud. Whatever happens tonight, there's no going back. Outside, the night wrapped around me like a shroud. The stars hid behind thin clouds, and the moon's light felt cold against my skin. I pulled my cloak tighter, fingers still trembling. Every sound seemed louder in the dark. The hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves. But beneath it all was the echo of his voice, the promise of the curse. "You won't escape me." And I knew deep down that he was right. The square was alive with sound. Morning light spilled over the cobbled streets, glinting off polished shields and steel-tipped spears. Merchants hawked their goods, children darted between carts, and the air was thick with the scent of fresh bread, leather, and horses. At the center of it all stood Rin. The city guard had gathered in a line, their uniforms crisp, boots clean for once. Rin's figure was unmistakable. Tall, steady, his dark hair ruffled by the breeze. His eyes swept the crowd, meeting each curious gaze without flinching. "This is Captain Rin Delaric," the mayor announced, voice booming over the square. "A man of honor and strength. He comes to bring order to Nerith in these troubled times." There was polite applause, some murmurs of approval, but also wariness. Nerith was small, proud, slow to trust outsiders. I stayed at the edge of the square, half hidden beneath the awning of a vendor's stall. My heart beat too fast, as if expecting him to look straight at me, call me out, name me for what I was. But didn't. Not yet. He spoke a few words, promises of service, duty, protection. His voice was steady, confident, but not arrogant. The kind of voice that made people listen. The kind that used to make me listen. I turned to go, hoping to slip away unnoticed. But luck wasn't with me today. "Nova." His voice found me through the noise, drawing my name like a thread through my spine. I froze. Slowly, I turned. He stood a few paces away now, having moved through the crowd with ease. Up close, the resemblance was even more striking. The set of his jaw, the tilt of his head, the way his gaze seemed to see through me. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said, as if we were old acquaintances. "I live here," I managed, forcing my lips into something that might pass for a smile. A flicker of something crossed his face. Surprise, or maybe confusion. As if he'd spoken without thinking. As if seeing me unsettled him as much as it did me. He recovered quickly. "Then I suppose it's good fortune we met again. I was hoping to thank you properly for your help yesterday." "You don't owe me thanks," I said, stepping back. The crowd pressed around us, but I felt as if we stood alone. "I disagree." There was warmth in his voice now, cautious but genuine. "You could have walked away. You didn't. Why do you look at me like that?" I wanted to scream. "Why do your eyes remember what your mind can't?" "Nova?" Damon appeared beside me, face tight, eyes on Rin. His hand brushed my arm, protective, grounding. "Captain." Damon's tone was polite but cool. "Is something wrong?" "No, not at all." Rin inclined his head. "We were just talking." Damon didn't relax. "Funny. Looked more like you were cornering her." "Damon, please," I whispered. The last thing I needed was a scene. Rin's brows lifted slightly, but he said nothing. Instead, his gaze flicked between us, as if weighing something. I saw a flicker of tension in his jaw, like he was holding back words he didn't understand himself. "I didn't mean to cause concern," Rin said at last. His voice was calm, but there was an edge beneath it, like steel beneath velvet. "My apologies." Without waiting for a response, he turned and melted back into the crowd, swallowed by uniforms and onlookers. I let out a shaky breath. "What was that about?" Damon asked. watching him go. Nothing, I said too quickly. He's just curious. Because of yesterday. Damon frowned. You sure that's all? I'm sure, but I wasn't. Not even close. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I worked at the shop, filling vials, crushing herbs, but my hands felt clumsy, my thoughts elsewhere. Every time the door creaked open, my heart raced, expecting to see Rin's face. When night fell, I stood at my window, watching the torches burn low in the square, the streets empty at last. I have to leave. The decision settled in my chest like a stone. Whatever force had drawn him here, whatever bond tied us, I couldn't risk it. Not for him. Not for me. I would go to Sierra. She would help me disappear for good this time. But as I packed my small bag, one last look out the window caught me off guard. There, beneath a street lamp, stood Rin. He wasn't looking up at my window. He wasn't looking anywhere at all, just standing, as if lost in thought, or waiting for something he couldn't name. I drew the curtain closed, heart pounding. By dawn, I'll be gone. The forest at night was a world of shadows. The moonlight barely reached the forest floor, and what little did was fractured by the tangled branches overhead. My boots sank into damp leaves as I moved, every step too loud in the heavy silence. A chill clung to the air, carrying with it the faint smell of smoke, not fresh but old, as if the land itself remembered fires long burned out. The deeper I went, the stronger it became. I pulled my cloak tighter, though it did little to warm me. Almost there. Sierra's home wasn't far beyond the edge of the woods, but each step felt as if it carried me miles away from everything I knew. My heart raced, not just from fear of the dark, but from what I was about to ask. Her cottage appeared suddenly, as if the forest had been hiding it. The roof sagged beneath moss and age, and strange symbols had been carved into the doorframe, worn nearly smooth by time. A faint light flickered in one window, candlelight, or perhaps something less natural. I hesitated at the door, my fingers hovering above the wood. For a moment, I considered turning back. But then I thought of Rin's face beneath that street lamp, lost and waiting, and I knew I couldn't. I knocked once. The door creaked open on its own. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of herbs, sharp, bitter, cloying. Bundles of dried plants hung from the beams, and strange trinkets filled every surface. Bones, stones, bits of glass that caught the candle's light. Sierra stood at the hearth, her back to me, stirring something in a pot. Her hair, long and gray, hung loose down her back. "I knew you'd come," she said without turning. Her voice hadn't changed. Low, roughened by years, with a weight that made every word feel final. "I had no choice," I said, stepping inside, closing the door behind me. The latch clicked like the sealing of fate. She turned then, and her eyes met mine, dark, unreadable, like the depths of a well you couldn't see the bottom of. "You've seen him," she said. It wasn't a question. Yes. The word barely left my lips. "And now you think you can break what binds you." I swallowed. "Can I?" Sierra moved closer, candlelight painting deep lines across her face. "You already know the answer, but you want to hear it so you can cling to some scrap of hope. Please," I whispered. My hands trembled at my sides. "Tell me." She studied me for a long moment, then sighed. "Kayden's soul lives on in him. Rin. The bond forged at his death, at your hands, it cannot be undone, not by charms, not by prayers." My breath hitched. There must be a way. Her gaze softened, but it made her look sad, not kind. "There is only one path left. The bond will break if you vanish from this world. Truly vanish." "You mean if I leave Nerith?" She shook her head slowly. "I mean if you leave this life." "Death, child. Your death would free him. He would walk this world unburdened at last." The room seemed to close in around me. The smoke from the hearth stung my eyes. My heart pounded so loudly I wondered if she could hear it. "That can't be the only way," I said, though even as I spoke, I felt the weight of truth in her words. "There may be another," she said, turning back to her pot, as if weary of the conversation. "But it's the hardest of all. His forgiveness, given freely, without bitterness, without pain. Only then will the curse lift." I clenched my hands into fists. "He doesn't even know what I did, not yet. When he remembers, the choice will be his. And yours." Silence fell between us. The fire crackled softly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Finally, Sierra spoke again, her voice softer now. You came here seeking an easy answer. There isn't one. There never was. I nodded, though the gesture felt hollow. My legs felt heavy, as if rooted to the floor. Go, she said, not unkindly. You'll find no peace here tonight, and you'll need your strength for what comes. I turned to the door, pausing with my hand on the latch. Sierra, I said, my voice small. If I run, if I leave him behind, will that save him? She didn't look at me as she answered. You can't outrun what's inside you. Or him. Outside, the forest seemed even darker than before. But I walked anyway, because there was nothing else to do. The ties between us wouldn't break. Not by running. Not by hiding. And the night air still smelled of smoke. Sierra's cottage seemed smaller in the flickering light of her hearth, the shadows stretching long across the floor. The room smelled of ash, old wood, and herbs left too long on the shelf. Shelves sagged under the weight of glass jars filled with strange things. Roots twisted like claws, bones too small to be animal. A cracked mirror hung crookedly on the far wall, reflecting the room in shards. I stood near the door, unable to move further inside. The weight of her words from moments ago still pressed against my chest. Death or forgiveness. There had to be another way. Sierra stirred the fire, sending a shower of sparks up the chimney. You look like a rabbit cornered by wolves, she said without looking at me. Sit. If you're to hear the truth, at least have the strength to stand afterward. Reluctantly, I stepped forward and lowered myself onto a low stool. The heat from the fire did nothing to warm me. Tell me everything, I said, my voice low. No riddles, no half-answers. Sierra smiled, but there was no kindness in it. Only weariness. She settled into a chair opposite me, the firelight painting deep lines into her face. The curse was born the moment you betrayed him, she began. Kayden's soul, bound by duty and fury, clung to this world. It could not pass on because of the bond forged in that final breath. He swore justice, even as he fell. And so the bond formed, between his soul and yours. I shivered. But why him? Why Rin? Because he is Kayden. His soul reborn, given a new name, a new face. But the bond remains. It always will, until the debt is paid. I clenched my hands into fists. My nails bit into my palms, grounding me. And that debt can only be paid by my death? Or his mercy? Sierra's gaze softened, but only a little. His true mercy. Not pity, not forgetting. He must remember and forgive with all his heart. Only then will the bond break. I stared at the cracked mirror behind her, seeing my reflection fractured into pieces. Just like me. And if I fail? I whispered. Then his soul will remain chained to yours. In this life, the next, and the one after that. Neither of you will ever find peace. My breath came too fast. I felt the room closing in, the smoke from the hearth catching in my throat. There has to be something else. A spell, a charm, anything. Sierra's smile faded. Do you think I haven't searched? Do you think I wanted this? Her voice rose, sharp as a blade. Do you think I wanted to see him reborn, bound to another? The fire cracked, the room falling silent under the weight of her confession. I stared at her. You loved him. Her jaw tightened. Kayden was mine. Before war took him. Before your betrayal took him. The pieces fell into place. The way she looked at me. The bitterness in her words. The edge beneath her guidance. Is that why you helped me? I asked, voice shaking. So he'll be free. Or so he'll be free of me. Sierra didn't answer. But she didn't need to. I stood, the stool scraping against the rough floorboards. My legs felt unsteady, but I kept my head high. I won't give him more death. I won't be the cause of more pain. Then you will fail, Sierra said quietly. Because mercy is the one thing you cannot demand. It must be given freely. And after what you did, do you think he will give it? Her words cut deep, but I didn't let them show. Then I'll earn it, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. I'll find a way. I have to. Her dark eyes watched me, unreadable. You'll only break your own heart. Better that than his, I said. The fire's glow flickered across the cracked mirror, and for a moment I thought I saw Kayden's face in the broken glass. Or maybe it was Rin's. I couldn't tell anymore. Without another word, I turned and left. The night outside was cold, but it felt cleaner than the air within those walls. I will not run. I will not die. I will find a way to save him, no matter what it costs me. The town was a storm of sound and motion. Bells clanged from the watchtowers, calling the guard to arms. Horses' hooves thundered across the square as men shouted orders and women pulled children out of harm's way. Smoke rose on the horizon where the caravan should have arrived. The bandits had struck close, too close. I ran through the chaos toward the square, my skirts gathered in one hand, my heart pounding so hard it drowned out the noise around me. Nova. I turned. Rin was striding toward me, his uniform dusty, his sword already drawn. His eyes, sharp and dark, met mine with that same pull that always left me breathless. "Stay back," he ordered. "It's not safe." "I can help," I said, forcing my voice steady. "There will be wounded." He hesitated, then gave a short nod. "Fine. But stay near me." We worked side by side as the first injured staggered into town. I tore strips of cloth, pressed them to wounds, mixed herbs from the small pouch I'd grabbed on my way out. Rin moved between the injured and the defenders, barking commands, his presence a steady anchor in the chaos. Yet, every time our eyes met, over the shoulder of a wounded man across the square, that same current passed between us. And it terrified me. As the worst of the fighting pushed back toward the outskirts, Damon appeared at my side. His tunic was torn, his arm bloodied but not badly. He caught my hand, pulling me behind a cart for a moment's shelter. "Nova," he said, breathless, his eyes wide with more than fear. "When this is over, I have to say it now because I can't keep holding it in. I care for you, more than a friend should. I have for a long time." The world seemed to tilt beneath me. "Damon." I started, but the words failed. How could I explain the mess of my heart? He smiled, a little sadly. "You don't have to answer. I just needed you to know." Before I could speak, a fresh wave of shouting drew us back to the square. Later, as the danger passed and the wounded were tended, I found myself alone with Rin near the well. The air was thick with smoke and dust, but quieter now, the immediate threat gone. "You shouldn't have stayed out here," he said, voice low, tense. "I had to," I said, exhausted but defiant. "You could have been killed." His anger startled me, or maybe it wasn't anger at all, but fear poorly disguised. I stepped back. "Why do you care?" He stared at me, as if he didn't know the answer himself. Then, before I could move again, his hand caught my wrist. And then he kissed me. It was sudden, fierce, as if all the tension between us had snapped at once. His mouth on mine silenced every thought, every fear, until all that remained was heat and the wild beat of my heart. For a moment, I let myself drown in it. Then I pulled back, gasping, my fingers trembling. My cheeks burned with shame, confusion, and something dangerously close to longing. "Don't," I said, breathless. "Don't do that." His hand fell away as if burned. His eyes searched mine, filled with questions he couldn't voice. "I'm sorry," he said, though we both knew he wasn't, not really. "I can't." My voice broke. "This isn't right." He took a step back, jaw tight. "Then tell me what is." I had no answer. My heart pounded against my ribs, my lips still tingling where he'd kissed me. My body betrayed me, trembling with the memory of him, even as my mind screamed that it was wrong. "Stay safe," he said at last, turning away, his voice softer now. "Please." And then he was gone, swallowed by the smoke and shadows, leaving me alone with the storm he'd set loose inside me. The makeshift infirmary was heavy with the scent of blood and smoke. Lanterns flickered along the walls, casting unsteady light over rows of wounded. Groans filled the air, punctuated by the clink of metal bowls, the rip of cloth, the soft prayers of healers working through exhaustion. I knelt beside one of the low cots, hands stained red, pressing linen to a soldier's side. My arms ached, my head swam with weariness, but I couldn't stop. Not yet. A shout drew my gaze across the room. A guard struggling to keep a man from falling off his cot. "Hold him down," I called, rising and hurrying over. It was Rin. His tunic was soaked with blood at the shoulder, his skin pale beneath the grime of battle. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, fever-bright. His body trembled with pain, and his breath came in ragged gasps. "Rin," I breathed, sinking beside him. "You're safe now. You're safe." But he didn't seem to hear me. His gaze darted past me, lost in something only he could see. Lena. The name fell from his lips, soft as a sigh, but it hit me like a blow. My name. My true name. The one I hadn't heard in years, not from any living soul. My hands froze, the cloth slipping from my grasp. Lena, he murmured again, voice thick with anguish. Why did you... I felt the blood drain from my face. Around us the world seemed to fade, the other voices, the flickering lanterns, until all that remained was him. And me, and the ghost of the past rising between us. No, I whispered. Please, not now. Not like this. His eyes opened wider, and for a terrible moment, they were no longer Rin's. They were Kayden's, full of betrayal, heartbreak, and a fury that chilled me to the bone. You gave me to them, he rasped. You let me die. Tears filled my eyes. I didn't want to, but the words choked off. What excuse could I offer that would matter? He struggled to sit, but the pain forced him back. His hand caught mine in a grip too strong for a man so weak. Why? He asked. His voice was raw, broken. Before I could answer, the healer pushed me gently aside, tending to the wound. The moment shattered, reality crashing back around us. I stumbled to my feet, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear. Nova. Damon's voice called from across the room, but I couldn't face him. Couldn't face anyone. I fled. Outside, the night air was cold, sharp with the smell of ash from distant fires. I ran until the infirmary's light was only a glow behind me, until my legs gave out and I sank to my knees beneath a twisted old tree. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. He remembers. The truth had found him. The bond had awoken fully now. And with it, the curse. I thought of his face, the pain in his eyes. The way he'd looked at me, as if I'd ripped out his heart all over again. I have to leave. If I stayed, I would only bring him more torment. The bond would destroy us both. I wiped my face with shaking hands and forced myself to stand. My body felt like lead, but I moved anyway. Each step away from the town felt like tearing off a piece of myself. I'll go before dawn. I'll find Sierra, beg her for help again. Or I'll vanish. Anything to end this before it's too late. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of smoke and the memory of his voice. Lena. And I knew, no matter how far I ran, the past would follow. But still, I had to try. The sky was bleeding into dawn, streaks of crimson and gold tearing through the remnants of night. Smoke drifted through the trees, low and bitter, as if the earth itself smoldered from the violence of the hours before. I ran. Branches clawed at my cloak, the forest floor treacherous beneath my feet, but I didn't stop. I'd meant to leave quietly, to vanish before anyone could follow. But the bandits had found me first, or perhaps fate had. And now they hunted me through the woods beyond Nerith. Behind me, the clash of steel rang out, voices raised in shouts and cries. I risked a glance over my shoulder and saw him, Rin. He fought like a man possessed, his blade flashing in the dim light, his movements precise and desperate. For me, and Damon. Brave, foolish Damon, forcing his way between us and the bandits whenever they drew too close. His tunic was dark with blood at the side, but he didn't falter. My heart clenched at the sight. This way. I called, breathless, ducking beneath a fallen tree. We can lose them in the gully. But the bandits were too many. Their leader, a brute of a man with a scar down his face, cut off our path, his sword raised. End of the road, girl, he snarled. I had no weapon, no strength left to run. Only one choice remained. No, Rin shouted, surging forward. But I was faster. I threw myself at the bandit, knocking him off balance. His blade grazed my side, fire spreading through my ribs, but I didn't stop. I drove us both to the ground, giving Rin the opening he needed. Steel met flesh. The bandit fell still. Pain bloomed in my body, hot and deep, but I forced myself up, swaying. Nova. Rin caught me before I could fall, his arms strong and shaking at once. His eyes searched mine, frantic, filled with fear, and something else. No, he whispered, voice raw. Don't you dare. A fresh shout, another bandit charging. Damon stepped between us, sword raised, but the blow came too fast. The blade cut deep into his arm before he drove his attacker back. Damon, I cried, reaching for him. I'm fine, he gritted out, though his face was pale. Help her. Rin held me as if he could will the wound away. But I saw it in his eyes, the moment he understood. The bond, the curse, the choice that had haunted us both. I can't lose you again, he said. His voice broke on the words. Not again. I shook my head, tears spilling hot down my cheeks. You have to. If you want to be free, I don't want freedom if it means your death, he said fiercely. Don't you see, The world blurred. My strength ebbed, but his voice tethered me. I forgive you. It was a whisper, but it roared through me, louder than any battle cry. I forgive you, Lena. Nova, whatever name you wear. I forgive you with everything I am. The bond shattered. I felt it, like a chain snapping deep inside my soul. A weight I hadn't known I carried lifted, and in its place came lightness and peace. My fingers trembled where they gripped his tunic. I sobbed, unable to speak, overwhelmed by the flood of release. And Rin wept too. His tears warm against my skin as dawn broke fully over the trees. Together we helped Damon to his feet, leaning on one another as we made our way back toward Nereth. The bandits fled, broken and scattered. The curse was gone, and for the first time in so many lifetimes, I was free to choose what came next. Morning had never felt so clean. The storm of smoke and blood had passed. The town of Nereth, battered but standing, slowly came back to life. Merchants began to right their carts, children peered out from doorways, and the scent of ash was carried away on the breeze, replaced by the crisp sweetness of dew and wildflowers. The sun crested the distant mountains, casting golden light over the rooftops, and with each warm ray, it felt like the curse that had bound us was burned away for good. Rin stood beside me on the edge of the square, his arm bandaged but strong around my shoulders. His gaze swept the town, then turned to me, soft and sure. It's over, he said quietly. I nodded, the truth of it sinking in like sunlight into my bones. It is no more ghosts, no more chains. Just us, free at last. Damon approached, his arm in a sling, a tired but genuine grin on his face. Looks like I'm not the only one who survived by sheer stubbornness, he said, eyes twinkling despite the pain I knew he felt. I smiled, grateful beyond words for his presence, his friendship. Thank you, I said, meaning it more deeply than he could know. He waved it off, but his gaze lingered on Rin's hand resting over mine. For a heartbeat, something flickered in his expression. Longing, maybe, or sorrow quickly buried. Then he smirked. Well, if you two are going to stare at each other like that, I'm going to need stronger drink. Rin chuckled, and I laughed, truly laughed, the sound strange and wonderful after so many years of fear. Later, we found a small slip of parchment pinned to the door of the apothecary. The handwriting was sharp and elegant, unmistakably hers. Revenge will never bring peace. Find your peace. S. Sierra was gone. No one had seen her leave, but somehow I knew we wouldn't see her again. I hoped she'd find whatever rest she sought. I hoped we all would. And so, when the town began to rebuild, when the wounded healed and the days grew warmer, Rin and I made our decision. We left, not in flight, as I had so many times before, but together, walking side by side, with no need to look over our shoulders. Now we stand on the crest of a hill beyond Nereth, the sun rising full above the world. Below us the forest stretches green and endless, the road winding into promise. Rin's hand finds mine, fingers entwining, steady and warm. What do you see? He asks softly. A future, I say. My voice doesn't tremble. Ours. We stay like that, the sun on our faces, the past behind us at last. And for the first time, I believe in tomorrow.